What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So the Economist YouGov poll was just posted, and this is recent, and it's an opinion poll. So I want to ask you guys how you feel about it first, and then we're going to go over the responses because I think these are really interesting. We're talking about the federal government. We're talking about how the current administration is doing, and we're talking about the things that are going on right now. How is that going to impact the 2026 midterm election? So let me go over the questions first. Now, what I want you to do, there's 5 different questions that we're going to go over, but I want you in the comments, before I even go, you can pause the video, before I go into what the Economist YouGov said, what I want you guys to show me is how you guys feel about these. So there's 5 of them. All you need to do is say yes, no, yes, no, yes, and then I'll be able to, in the comments we'll know what you're talking about. So the first question is, how often does the federal government do what is right? The second question is corruption widespread in the U.S. government? Third question, how much confidence do you have in Congress? The fourth question, is the U.S. economic system fair or rigged to benefit the wealthy? This is a good one right here. I really want to know what you guys think about that. And then the fifth one here, it says, will today's children be better off financially than their parents? Okay, so we're going to go over all of those questions. We'll take a look at what the Economist YouGov showed us, so the polling that they did. And so that's what we're going to focus on in this video. But first off, you guys can do me a favor. Please like the video. And if you're watching this video and you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel. Okay, so who am I? I need to start doing this more because I don't really talk enough about where I come from and, my background. So I have a political science degree, and I've worked in political campaigns for about 15 years. And so a little more than 15 years. And so this interests me, and that's the reason why I like to do these different videos talking about this. I talk about other things as well, as far as I'm retired as well. So I talk about Social Security, I talk about retirement, but I do like talking about politics, but more on the strategy, the campaigning. I like that. That really interests me. Okay, so let's go ahead. I want to show you guys the polls, and we'll start from the first one here. And I'll also break it down along party lines because it's different. Okay, different parties, Republicans see things differently than Democrats, independents. It's weird how that plays out, but we do see some similarities. But in a lot of situations, you can ask a Republican one question, you can ask a Democrat that same question, or ask an independent that same question, and there's a different response. And so we know that depending on what party you belong to, you're going to see things a certain way. Okay, so let's go ahead and start here with the first one. So it says, how often does the federal government do what is right? Okay, so right now we have not sure at 7%. We have most always at 10%, most always at 10%. Wow, okay. And then we have some of the time, 28%. But look at this, rarely, never, 55%. The majority of the people who were polled here, and we'll go down and we'll talk about how many people were polled and everything, but the majority of the people that were polled here are saying that they don't think the government does the right thing. Okay, they don't do what's right. And so ultimately what that means is we need to be more informed. We need to be more engaged. We need to be out there voting for the people who are actually doing what we want them to do. Because if we're saying the majority of the time the government isn't doing what's right, guess what? We're the people who put these people in place. We put these politicians in office. And so if they're not doing what's right, and the majority of us feel that way, we need to change. Not them, because we can change them by putting in the right people. It would be just like if you were the owner of a business and you look around and you say, you know what? Things aren't getting done the way that I want them to get done. The majority of the stuff that I want to get done, it's not getting done the right way. Then what do you do as an owner? You hire more people. You fire some people and then you hire some more people that will do the job the right way. And so that's what we need to do. We need to be hiring people, electing people that will do the jobs the right way. And so we can't just sit back and just complain and say, well, things aren't going right and I don't know what's going on, but they're not doing their job. If they're not doing their job, we need to vote them out of office. Okay, and we might see that in 2026. Okay, and this is an indicator. This is an indicator because people are unhappy with how the government is being run. Maybe we will see new people come into office. Okay, whether they be Democrats or Republicans, there's probably going to be a lot of Democrats that will be elected because Republicans right now have all the power. So if you have the power, if you control the White House, if you control the House and you control the Senate, and realistically you control the Supreme Court, if that's the situation and people are unhappy with government, guess what they're going to do? They're going to say, Republicans, you're out of there. Democrats, we want you in office. And so we'll have to see how that plays out. Okay, so let's get to, and I should have started with this, but we'll just go ahead and do it now. So we're talking about, this is Economist YouGov, and so this is an A-rated pollster. We have 1,530 adults. Okay, so that's who was polled. So we're not talking about registered voters. We're not talking about likely voters. We're talking about adults. Now, in certain situations, I think it's okay. When you're asking just basic questions, you're not asking which candidate are you voting for. You're just asking overall, how do you feel about the government? I think those are appropriate just to have adults. You don't need to have likely voters or registered voters. And so in this situation, I think it's appropriate. Okay, let's look at the next one here. So looking at the next one, is corruption widespread in the U.S. government? You have 17% of the people who were polled here said not sure. You have 21% said no or not widespread. And then yes, widespread, 62%. 62% of the people who were polled here are saying that they think corruption is widespread in our government. What does that mean? That means that those people need to go. That's what it means. And it means that we're the people that need to get them out of office. So like, as I stated before, you can't just merely say, there's corruption, things are bad, and just go about your day. You need to do something about that, because that's how you change things. If you call people out and say, you don't need to be in office anymore, and vote them out, guess what that does? That sends a message to the people who might be in office right now that aren't doing right. If they see other people getting booted out, then they're going to shape up. Either they're going to shape up or they're going to leave or they're going to be kicked out. And so that's what needs to be done. We actually need to get out there and get these politicians on the right track, if that's the way you truly feel. Okay, how much confidence do you have in Congress? Not sure, 6%. A lot, 6%. Some, 24%. Very little or none, 64%. Okay, so this is another situation. You don't have any confidence in the people who are representing you. Why are they representing you? Okay, let's go ahead and move on. Move to the next one here. Is the U.S. economic system fair or rigged to benefit the wealthy? What do you guys think about this one? 14% says not sure. 25% says generally fair. And then 61% said rigged for the wealthy. So the vast majority of the people who were polled here are saying that things are being rigged for the wealthy people. Okay, the vast majority, 61%. That's a huge number there. And then fair is 25%, generally fair. So you have a small group of people that are thinking that, everything is on the up and up, and then not sure is at 14%, but 61%, that's what we really need to focus on. So a lot of people out there right now are looking at the wealthy and saying things are rigged for them. This is not, it's not a fair playing field is what they're saying. Okay, last question here. It says, will today's children be better off financially than their parents? Not sure is 9%. Better off, 15%. 27%, about the same. And then worse off, 49%. And so about 50% of the people who were polled here are saying that they think that the younger generations are going to be worse off than their parents were. That's really bad. And you just think about this. You had, and I can just look in my generation. I'm Gen X. So my parents owned a house when they were very young. It took me a while to get to the point where I could own a house. There are still people that are Gen Xers and my age bracket that don't own a house because they can't afford to own a house, especially if you live in states like California and New York where houses are very expensive. It's hard to buy a house, especially if you're on one income. If you have a family, maybe you have two incomes coming in, maybe it's a little bit easier. But if you are single, it's very hard to buy a house. And so what we're seeing is the younger generations, it's going to be really, really hard for them. Even if they're making good money, it's going to be hard for them to be able to afford some of the things that the older generations were able to afford, because we were in different times then. And so this goes back to the affordability. We've been talking about this. When it comes to the 2026 midterms, it's going to be about affordability. Can you afford things? What is the cost of groceries? What are the costs of all these different items? Are tariffs really raising prices? Is inflation high? And so all of these questions are going to be on the ballot in 2026 midterms. So President Trump's not going to be on the ballot, but a lot of Republicans are going to be running on his record. And if his record is bad, guess what? They're going to get voted out. We're going to see a big shift in 2026 if that is the case. Okay, so now we're going to look at the party split. Now, this is where it gets interesting because we have the same questions here, but depending on what party you're affiliated with, you answer the question differently. Okay, now let's take a look at this. This is really interesting. So look, federal government does what is right. Okay, so this percentage is based on rarely, never. So the federal government, do they do things right? Rarely, never. That is the percentage that we're looking at. Republicans, 72%. Okay, they don't have very much trust for the federal government. Independents, 58%. Democrats, 44%. So interesting there. Okay, so you have most Republicans, they don't think that the federal government's doing what's right. Okay, now, one of the things we need to look at is the current administration. So you have Republicans running the government. And right now they're controlling all three branches, okay? The executive, judicial, and the legislative. And so Republicans right now, they don't think that the government's doing what's right. Okay, let's go ahead and move forward. We'll look at corruption is widespread in the U.S. government. And this is saying, yes, it is widespread. Republicans, 68%. Independents, 64%. Democrats, 55%. So Democrats have more faith in the government than Republicans and independents. Okay, let's go ahead and move a little bit further. Okay, confidence in Congress. Republicans, 74%, and the answer is no confidence. Okay, 74%. Independents, 66%. Democrats, 52%. And this can be telling us some valuable information as well. So you have Republicans, they don't have confidence in Congress. And guess what? Who is controlling Congress? Republicans are controlling Congress. So what we might not see Republicans going out voting for Democrats. We might see some, I'm talking about the 2026 midterms, but what we could see is a lot of Republicans that are dissatisfied with the way the government is run right now. And they just might not come out and vote. Okay. President Trump isn't on the ballot to get them rallied up to go out and vote. And so they might just stay home. That will hurt Republicans, obviously. That means Democrats will have a better advantage if you have some Republicans that just feel like, you know what, Congress, we don't have any confidence in Congress. I'm not going to go out. Why would I go out and vote when I don't have confidence in these politicians? And so if they don't vote, then that means that Democrats are going to have a leg up. Now, looking at the numbers with Democrats, if we went back 52%, Democrats, they have more confidence, but the majority of Democrats don't have confidence in Congress. But it's a much smaller number, 52% compared to 74%. Okay, let's move on. It says U.S. economic system is rigged for the wealthy. And the answer here is they're saying that it is rigged. Republicans, interestingly enough, 41%. 41%. So less than half of Republicans think that it's rigged for the wealthy, that our current system is rigged for the wealthy. That is very, very interesting. Very interesting. Independents, 63%. Look at Democrats, 78% think it's rigged for the wealthy. And so, and this has a lot to do with some of the legislation that we've seen go through. We just saw the big, beautiful bill that goes to help mainly wealthy people. And this was a bill that was authored by Republicans and passed through reconciliation, so they didn't need any Democrats to pass it. But when it comes to Democrats, they're looking at that bill and saying, look, this is going to help wealthy people. It's not really going to help that middle class or working class and the poor. And economists have already come out and say that, yes, this is true. It's going to help wealthy people more than it's going to help the people, on the lower tier. And so we'll have to see the effects of the big, beautiful bill because it hasn't completely been implemented yet. And so once it is, then we'll start seeing some of the ramifications of the big, beautiful bill and how much it costs and all of that. So that's something that we'll be keeping an eye on. But it's interesting when you ask Republicans, they don't think it's being rigged. But when you ask Democrats and independents, you see, yes, there's a problem there. It is being rigged. They feel that it's being rigged for the wealthy. Okay, and then the last one here says children will be worse off than their parents. And the answer is they're saying yes, they would be worse off. Republicans at 49%, independents at 51%, Democrats at 46%. This is interesting. Look at this. I mean, they're very, very close. They're very, very close. And we're looking at about 50%, so 50-50 when it comes to the people who were polled here. So they feel that, yes, you know what? My children will probably be worse off than me as a result of just the economy and how things are going, inflation and all of that. It's hard for younger people to be able to get a leg up and be able to own property and things like that. And so I thought this was a really interesting poll that was put out. I want to know what you guys think. In the comments, let me know what you think about some of the different questions. Answer some of the different questions for me in the comments. If you guys like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more. And remember, stay informed, stay engaged, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye. So that's all we have for this video. Make sure if you guys want to send me an email, you can do that, david@thetecshow.com. Like the video, subscribe for more, and check out these videos over here for some more great content. Talk to you later. Bye.